Would you say Albo is even like from my assessment, if I'm just looking at policy, I think Anthony Albanese right now is Malcolm Turnbull. Like I've never seen Malcolm Turnbull agree with Malcolm Turnbull is more progressive on like this. Malcolm Turnbull's calling the subs deal for what it is, a big waste of money for submarines we're never going to get to a country that do we want to be that closely aligned with right now. Like, and Albo is like more of a classical liberal than the classical liberal Malcolm Turnbull. Like, I don't know.
It's time for Lefties Losing It.
The Rightest Leftist is that's a good name too, by the way.
Hello and welcome to the Rightest Leftist with Nathan Ogilvie. Today we have a very special guest who, if you've seen my channel, the chances are you've seen his channel as well. Welcome, Konrad from Punter's Politics.
G'day, punters and the Rightest Leftist people. Hey, what is a Rightest Leftist?
It's a tongue-in-cheek. I've had that question a few times. I think the absurdity of the right and left spectrum, because not a lot of people don't even really know what that means. So I decided I had to have some kind of a name. So that just sort of popped up in my head. I don't know if you know Kyle Kalinske. He's a big YouTuber in the USA. Yeah. He has a stream with his friend and they do like a live stream, and I sort of super chatted and put the idea to them, and he said he liked it. So I sort of got my one of my left-wing idols' approval for the name. And then it's kind of just, it's stuck because this isn't my day job. So I sort of try to keep this distinct from my work outside of this. So I was like, let's come up with a silly name.
Have you, I think you have said what you do outside of this. I think I've watched.
Yeah. So I'm a psychologist.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is what actually got me into this channel, like doing a channel, the psychology of politics and decision making. Yeah. Because I'm fascinated by how people pick a party or a politician or a candidate to support and the reasons behind that. And that's kind of what this whole channel was about.
Could you ever set up like a psychology studio for people's parents to help them understand what we young punts are talking about? Because I don't know what your parents are like, but you can't convince them of anything and they know everything.
Yeah, that was one of I say there was like 3 events that led me to start the channel, and one of them was the yes, no, the voice vote. And my family is quite conservative, and went to dinner. They hadn't spoken to a yes voter before. I hadn't spoken to a no voter, and it didn't go well. So like that was, it was quite triggering for me at the time. But I've done a lot of reflection on that because I didn't handle that conversation very well. But it sort of sparked, and that's something I think, you do really well with your channel is people get in these political bubbles. They get in their information bubble, and the way that the social media works with algorithms, people get stuck in that bubble. And I think from a psychological perspective, there is an emotional thing to that. When your bubble gets popped, it is actually quite uncomfortable and distressing. And the way people respond to that is often to attack the person in front of them or the ideology of the party. And my whole thing with my channel is I keep it, obviously I'm calling it the Rightest Leftist, so my viewpoint is out there. I'm not neutral per se, but in terms of like parties and who to decide to vote for, it's my whole thing is let's analyze the policy and see what the best policies are, to then actually see who you have an informed vote. Because my whole thing is I don't care if someone disagrees with me. What I care about is if they don't listen to my point of view, and like vice versa too, trying to hear what other people, their opinions are. And why they made the decision that they did. And if we can understand that from each other, it may not lead to agreement, but I think that understanding is a much better place to start than just arguing.
Well, I think being a psychologist has got to help on some level, because I've witnessed so much in political conversation. The reason why I didn't get into politics for so long was because it was so divisive. I looked at, the Kyle Kalinskes of the world and the Americans, and they are just at each other. There's just the tribalism. Doesn't matter. And I think what we're realizing now when you look at America, you're realizing like the mask is off with the left and the right and the tribalism. We made all these arguments about free speech and less government control and pro-guns. And then as soon as it doesn't work for my team, I drop all of those things that I told you were the reasons why I did this. But it turns out it's just my tribe. It turns out that I'm just barracking for a team. And I think a lot of people in politics, I don't know, there's like the engaged person to various different levels. And I think the person that's engaged with politics is often tribal and does not know it. Like people, like I've seen in my comments, they were being like, yeah, I know he's saying stuff you agree with, but he's some lefty greeny something. I'm like,
Yeah.
what? Like, just, do you want like taxes and royalties from your resources or not? Like, or do you want to just fight because you think I'm something because you've projected it onto me? And I think having political conversations, I've seen when I come up against someone's load-bearing political identity, and I can literally see the fuse box switch off. And so when you're like, that's why I like what you're doing. It's like, hey, let's talk about policy. And but as soon as you get to a certain point with somebody, we will do anything we can to not reassess. Oh, was I a bit silly in just believing what the politician said and didn't look at their voting record? Oh, it's like I think that step psychologically, don't have a degree, but I feel like it's very hard for people to get over that step.
Yeah, they do. And a classic comment, one of my first videos I had, the comment was like basically really good points, but too left-wing for me. Like it's in the main, but you like my points though, but it's too, I was just say like, you like what I said, but because I'm left-wing, you don't like it.
Yeah.
So,
which I take it to mean that some other person that I trust has handed me a heuristic to more simply identify who I trust and who I don't trust. And so you said some trigger words like climate change or LGBT, and they go, oh, left, like, warning, lefty. I know he's not talking about those things, but I'm agreeing with this. No. And I think there's like levels of engaging in politics. And I guess what I'm trying to do is pull people up the ladder. Like, I don't care if you don't vote the same way I vote. I've actually never said to anyone publicly which way I vote, because I'm not here to tell you how to vote. I just want you to vote on policy. And if you're some rich punt with 4 negatively geared properties, don't listen to me. I clearly don't own a house. So like, I don't want everyone getting tax breaks for that. But if you're benefiting from that, I don't vote for it. You should. That's benefits you. That's how it should work.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's, I think we've emailed back and forth. I'll just give you the quick story about how I came across your channel. And you've got the logo there on your shirt, the policy over party. And that's kind of exactly what I agree with. But I started my channel in May, like a week after the Australian election, because we sort of, Albanese kind of won and now he looks like a genius. But back in December, January, it wasn't looking good for Labor. And it got a bit dicey there that, the coalition might get back in. And so I started that channel, and in like a week after starting it, I came across your channel, and I'd already been doing a few videos, but I kind of had an existential crisis because I was like, oh, my whole thing is like, I'm only going to do something if, not that I'm the best at it, but I have to be like, if I'm going to do this YouTube, there has to be something value that I add that's different to what other people are doing. Because like everyone knows Friendly Geordie's the biggest, pretty much the biggest YouTuber, single YouTuber in Australia. He has the short film. He's a bit more of a comedian, bombastic. He's got that style. And my whole thing was, I'll go into like more policy. I won't necessarily talk about, I talked about parties. Like I'm not a member of a party, so I'll talk about that. Then I saw your channel and I was like, oh man, this guy does everything that I'm doing even better. And I was originally saying like everyday Aussies. And then I saw a video where you're like everyday punters. And I sort of like just like flipped the table. I actually didn't post a video for a month. That wasn't because I had a busy work schedule at that time, but I actually had this real reevaluation last year of like, what am I actually doing this for? And I wonder as well, like, I saw one of your videos, I think it was a response to Friendly Geordies, where you've talked about your sort of philosophy of it's more about education, because that's your background, isn't it? Like you're a teacher by profession.
Yeah, I used to be a teacher.
I kind of technically am, because I also teach it at the university as well, like teach psychology, like because I love teaching as well from a family of teachers. Is that kind of the whole, we might have different approaches, and now like I'm still doing videos and slowly getting bigger as I go. But is that kind of your overall goal? The Punters Politics approach is, again, not about being dogmatic or say vote for this person, don't vote for that person or party. It's let's have a look at these policies. Let's see how the economy's rigged. And then you make the decision for yourself based on that information.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And YouTuber to YouTuber, what I would say is copy and do the same thing, rinse and repeat. There's no originality. And it's like, if you like policy over party, well, so the bloody hell do I. Take the slogan, off it goes. Because
All right.
like, there's always, like, everyone's always bringing a slight different angle. And I think, like, I've deliberately tried to step into this void that I see between academia doing pretty good research, pretty good. Like, I've only done like 1 unit of economics at university in my master's. And then I've listened to a F ton of podcasts about economics. And then when I was teaching like 11, 12 economics and just basic sort of stuff. And I was like, oh, like, all politics is an argument over economics. And
you say, yeah, at the borders level.
at the core, it's like, we think this will happen, we think that will happen. And once I understood that, I went, well, we've seen other countries try stuff. And so we know roughly, like, things are different, but we can roughly see this direction, shit, American healthcare system. Don't do it. Norway, when it's a resource-rich state, it's avoided Dutch disease, which we are bloody have Dutch disease. We just have slightly more comfortable lives for now. And so I've just gone, oh, well, there are answers out there that are pretty simple. And I've just tried to fit the void of, like, you've got academia doing its little research, writing its boring ass papers that nobody will read. Then you've got the news telling everyone that politics is right versus left, this versus culture war, that, culture war, this. And everyone gets sick of this, like, sniping, and the politicians are like, you said this, you said that, blah, blah. And everyone tunes out. And I think when I started, I didn't realize the political appetite there was when politics is presented as just issue-based. Here's what we can all sort of agree on. So my approach is trying to bring together everyone. I don't care if we disagree. I don't care if you're a lefty or a righty or whatever it is. There's purity codes on both sides that don't allow us to even associate with somebody else. Like, the right wing just bombed me from a few of their, like, key accounts over not posting about the hate speech bill quick enough. Like, oh my gosh. And so the funny thing is, I was talking to Hannah Ferguson, who's the Cheek Media, and I was like, I'm actually afraid of your lefty audience. Like, they're actually very purity code minded. They're like, how dare he not mention this and don't do that. And we're used to seeing it from this purity code left. But then I just got it from the purity code right, where they're like, how dare you not say it fast enough? And then I'm like, I agree with you, weirdly enough. And they're like, it's not good enough. And so it's like, that whole thing of politics, I hate. And I just want us to go, hey, you hate immigration, but guess what? You want to stop giving your gas away for free? Great. So do I. Oh, we could come together and pass a bill, and we could all just say, we want you to do that. And then we can go back to fighting. And I think the only way we sort of, and I don't know, my approach is to ignore the tribalism, because they'll project it. You're a teal shill. You're a Labour shill. Labour shill is what I get all the time. And I'm like, I just don't care. That's on you. You're the one that's trying to project the political story you've been handed by the media machine. I'm just trying to say, let's find what we agree on, because it's actually a lot. You don't want their housing situation to be screwed. Let's all come together and sort of fix that. And I think my teaching background has made me just build up. Hey, if we're voting on vibes, big mistake. Politicians are so good at manipulating vibes. It's actually pretty bloody simple. If Pauline Hanson's running around saying all this cool shit you agree with, check her voting record. If she keeps voting for unconventional gas mining that gives us nothing, well, maybe she's not actually going to give us what we're bloody owed for our gas. So that's sort of my whole approach.
Absolutely. And against workers' rights too, that Pauline never talks about that, voting against that. But we definitely have a very similar, I think that's really interesting in terms of, even though our channels kind of take a different style, our sort of approach to it and philosophy is very similar. Because that's exactly like you. Up taken 0 economics units in uni at all. I had no economic background. I run a small business, so I'm not employed, as a psych. I've set up my own business, so that's how I've learned economics through that way. But that's what I was so surprised about. And looking back, I'm like, why was I surprised? Doing a political channel, how related it is to the economy. So I'm coming up to nearly a year, like 9 months now of the channel, and I've just rapidly been learning all these economic concepts. Like, obviously throughout life, you do pick up on them, like GDP and all the basics in that. But the thing that is really sinister, and I think you really highlight well and in different ways, is Gary Stevenson from the UK. He's sort of a finance guy. He talks about inequality, And I've always known about that. And that's why I was previously a Greens voter in my early 20s, was that the inequality is, well, it already has across the world spiraled out of control. Australia, we're a little bit more protected from it, but not by much. And we're going in the wrong direction.
Yeah,
and
we're
that's for me.
accelerating. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the things that you highlight in your channel, the kind of the job, it's sort of the, the big club that you're not in. Your shorts really do that well. I think I've commented on them a few times. It's like, I call it hilariously depressing, because they are very funny, but also the message behind them is like, yeah, it's just the government's pouring all this money into subsidies for big business. You probably could go through the laundry list, but all the ways that the economy is rigged against the little guy. I just like, again, you sort of say like, why is the media not talking about it? But then you realize that they are millionaires funded by billionaires. All the hosts are well paid because they're paid by, the big media companies that also have shares in all these companies. And, it leads you down to this path of despair, I guess at times. But I think that's something that I see in your channel, where I think there is that space. And when I had that sort of existential crisis, it's like, we're kind of doing the same thing. It's like, no, we need more of that. We need that counter messaging against it, because I do think, as you said, whether it's definitely over 90%, but even close to maybe like 95% of Aussies would agree. Most of us are working people who have small businesses, and it is rigged. And it's, I don't necessarily have a question, but is that kind of like, how do you feel as you're going through this? Because obviously you've been doing this for, so how long is your channel been going?
Probably 2 years.
Yeah. How is your sort of mindset around this inequality change? Like, are you hopeful that we can reverse the trend in Australia? I know the role of ours is to educate people, but again, individuals don't have that much power.
Yeah, I don't know. I oscillate between hope and despair. You look at the states and you go, oh, we're pretty close. Like we don't have to vote for the two majors, and there's no other path forward.
Yeah.
And we don't have to look at the rise of like the right-wing reform, which is just another billionaire distraction machine. Like,
yes, exactly.
Look at who's funding Nigel Farage. Look at who just poured her money from Peter Dutton into Pauline Hanson. It's Gina bloody Reinhardt. Is Gina bloody Reinhardt going to pay me what I'm bloody owed for the iron ore she bloody digs up all the time? No, she's going to pretend it's hers. She's going to give us a piss weak royalty, and then she's going to whinge about the taxes she has to pay, which I'll give her credit. She does pay tax, unlike some of these other Japanese cartels that are rolling around the US Exxon Mobil. And so I go between a bit of hope and a bit of despair, because we're so close to sort of solving it, but we have to focus on the right things. And the media machine, I just did a YouTube video on capital gains tax, right? And everyone loses their mind. And it's like, it's one of these things where it's like the media has cooked your brain. Look at the government money going to the top 5%. And they're like, no, bloody government taxing me all the time. The media machine has convinced that 80% of Aussie punters not getting any benefit from this $20 billion subsidy. Like 15 billion of it roughly of that goes to like the real rich punts. You get like a little sprinkling, and it feels nice to get like a little bit of something. But the media machine has convinced the Aussie public that this thing that every academic is saying has destroyed our house prices, that this system they've convinced us that it's good. And Rupert Murdoch, what's he own? The top 20 real estate sites, and he's just bought in and expanded his mortgage brokerage. So it's like, and then the next holding of real estate websites is bloody Channel 9. So there's no wonder we have The Block, and we have every freak out ever and Jim Chalmers hasn't said anything about capital gains either. He just didn't say he just kind of is like quiet about it. And he's like, oh, we're just looking at options. No, that's not good enough. You see the media machine freak out, and you kind of see half of Australia take the bait. You see half of Australia go, yeah, bloody taxes. And then we go into bat to defend the money they're stealing from us when they don't kind of need it. And so like sometimes I have hope, sometimes I don't. I think we're not far from fixing this. Sometimes I feel like we are far from fixing it, but because we have preferential voting and mandatory voting, I feel like we have a slightly longer timeline. Like I do think all it takes is someone charismatic. This is why I guess when you were kind of getting worried about the Liberal Party winning in the last election, I never was. And I was talking to some of my friends, and they're like, no, man, look at the polling. It's close. And I was like, mate, no one who looks like Peter Dutton will ever win in Australia. And I'm glad to say I was proven correct, but it did make everyone go, and everyone gets into this mindset like, oh, well, we have to get behind Labor because, whatever they're doing, because they're better than the alternative. It's like, and then what do we get? I think we got what I feared, a do-nothing Albanese government with enough power to sort of do whatever he wants. And what have we found? He's not shaking up the fundamental broken structures. He's doing what Rupert Murdoch doesn't want him to pass a gambling ad ban. So what's he doing? Not doing that. Rupert Murdoch doesn't want him to fix property prices. So what's he doing? Not fixing that. Because there's these underlying structures that everyone is getting screwed by. And when everyone says both parties are the same, the Labor Rusties come out and say, they're not the same. Look at how different they are. We get it. But the underlying structure of this privatization of public goods, this bailing out corporations after we privatize them that we pay more for, it continues. Like the broken system profits this group of people, and both governments continue the broken system. Labor just throw a few pennies at us, which, yes, thanks for the tax break and thanks for the 15 grand HEX discount. I'll take it, but the underlying structure kind of changes nothing.
Yeah, and I really take that structural approach too, because the way that we become like America, which like the US, which we don't want to be, is continuing that structure or people not challenging it and trying to do something about it. I do think one of the big answers is educating the general population that they understand this stuff. And I think that's the main thing that I guess you and I are doing, is letting people understand that. Because if they literally saw, because, humans are very visual. Most people are visual learners. And, it's those images, like even with the ICE stuff in the US, as soon as they saw that image of the guy getting basically executed, the public opinion changed. If we saw like the bags of, like, if it wasn't just wired transactions, if we saw the bags of the millions of dollars going out of the country, it would be, people would be protesting. Cause that's my whole thing. I don't, like, we don't need to talk about even the protest, because I'm more about the economics, and I know you are too. But I'd love to see people protest about an economic issue for once. It's always about the social issues, which are important. But people don't get out on the streets when, rents have gone up for most people like 25%. I personally had an experience. I talked about that. I'm a homeowner now, but a few years ago when I was renting, one year the rent went up 25%. And the answer was, well, that's the market. Well, that's a cartel where all the landlords in the suburb raise the rents at the same time.
Yeah.
No rent controls, nothing. Like, what can you do about that?
Yeah.
And I do agree with you. I'm already hearing our Labor friends typing on their key. I can hear the keys typing now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Their response would be, I guess, that it's not just shit and shit like that Labor has made a lot of meaningful changes. There's like Future Made in Australia, Housing Future Fund, proper funding of Medicare with bulk billing. Like their argument would be
I'll give them lots of credit on Medicare. I was just
and education, free TAFE. So, and industrial rights, like now, I actually didn't even know, but like overtime wasn't even in law, and now they put it into law this time around.
Well,
so
I've got to give them credit for workers' rights. Like, I do think that's something I haven't paid much attention to, that Labor Rusties will be like, but look at this. And it's not nothing. It does, it is like good, like credit where it's due.
I do think though, exactly what you're saying, and why I think I've been watching the rise of the independents. I've never voted for independent because I don't live in an area that had any running, but why I've been really interested in them, Teals or not Teals, just independents in general, why they've been doing so well. And actually, I think why One Nation is doing well too is Labor's marketing is terrible. Friendly Jorders even admitted it. I've got that soundbite. Don't need to play it now.
My brother didn't even know. He like, I was like, you got a tax cut. He's like, what? And he was like, oh, is that why I'm getting more in my take-home pay? I'm like, yes. That would be exactly why. And he doesn't know that. And probably a lot of people are the same. They're just like, they're not paying attention exactly to that number.
And I don't know your feelings on this, but my feeling is that like good policy doesn't speak for itself. It needs to be advertised and bragged about. And that's the parts of the Trumpism that we need to take. None of the actual Trump as a person.
Send a check with Albo's name on it.
Yeah, like brag about it. And I actually understand that, because doing what I do in the psychology field, we actually have a lot of restrictions around advertising. Like we can't use testimonials because we're bound by ethical codes, and it's dealing with people's mental health. We actually have really stringent rules about advertising. So I kind of understand where it's like, and political advertising, it's a little bit different. And a lot of them say like, I saw on my channel when I would criticize Labor, they're like, oh, as you were just saying, you didn't mention this, this, this. It's like, well, I didn't know. And
Yeah.
is it on me really to know? I've actually been searching for Labor now for the last like 6 months, looking deep diving into their policies, and I've had to actively find stuff. They should have like a scorecard on their website. They should post their last YouTube channel post was 9 months ago in the election.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
where
they
are they
try
like
to, like-
advertising, bragging?
If I was in the comms office of some of these Labor rusties, I'd be, and I've seen a few pop up, a few podcasts, but I'd be doing kind of what these think tanks do. You know, they've got the graph of how much tax they're not paying, blah blah blah. Like, they need to be putting out, like, get some university professors' research, make it understandable, and post it, because when we just think everything a politician is saying is bullshit, which I think is mostly true, because they just have to like toe a party line. And this is what Labor rusties, I think, don't understand as to why people aren't in love with Labor like they are, or Liberal, whatever you're rusted onto, is because they have to toe a party line. And we don't know what goes on behind those closed doors meetings when they come up and say, okay, we're not going to ban gambling ads. All we see is a government who commissioned a report that they commissioned that says, do this to fix the problem. And then they come out and say, we're not going to. And and then they can't explain it to us. They're like, well, no, Albo's line, we've done more to restrict gambling than any other government. I don't give a shit, mate. Like, every other government was shit. So if you're doing more than the bare minimum, it's not good enough for me. And so they have these lines, and they can't really honestly answer stuff because they don't want to like piss off the party, because they have to have party unity. And all we see is disingenuousness. We see like you're hiding something. And so we just go, well, gambling money went up in the last 2 years into your party. And Rupert Murdoch and Volandis, who Albo's very good friends with, don't want you to ban gambling ads because that's how they make their money. So when you don't do it against all of the research, we think you're corrupt. That's just as simple as it is.
Totally. And the Labor Business Forum, I did a video on this a couple of weeks ago. The sports bet, TAB or whatever, like there's tiers, and some of them paid the highest tier, which is over $100,000. What's included in that tier is a lunch with Albo at the end of the year. At like, I think it might be the grand final, some sports event that's full of gambling. So
that's called corruption. You're paying money to get access to our leader. That's what Trump is doing with Trump coin. Like, what's the you've got more loopholes than the Labor Party, and it's distance and it's complicated. But to the everyday punter, I don't think we regular punters can really tell the difference between a little bit of corruption and a lot of corruption. So if we're seeing cash for access through whatever mechanism, I don't care how you justify it. If that's what we're seeing, we're going to call it corrupt. But you're going to dance around and say, well, it's not corrupt, and I'll sue you if you say that. Blah blah blah. It's all legal. Yeah, we know. We don't care.
Yeah, 100%. And the fact that it is legal is I say is actually worse. It should be illegal. Just because it's legal doesn't mean it's moral.
That's right.
Yeah, I was going to give some examples. That's probably not a good route to go down, but like, I get what you mean. I think the counterpoint. So, Labor actually has their national conference this year. I'm trying to get a band of like commentators to go down there. I think it's over in Adelaide this year, because that's where they decide on their policy. And this is a big counterpoint for Labor, because I've got, I'll say some insiders. I've got people that know a little bit about what goes on. Labor has a left and right faction. And I think Labor's big argument that they make is like, there are some economic and some political realities to their policy. The dental on Medicare is one. I was a huge advocate for that. That was the reason in the last election, I voted for the Greens, because that was the only candidate that I vote per candidate, not necessarily per party. And they were supporting dental on Medicare. But Labor's whole thing was like, it's not economically realistic. It's like
bullshit.
The actual report that Adam Ban got the Senate costing, it actually said it's highly uncertain because of a lot of different factors. One of the big ones being a lack of dentists. But then this is what I try to say to people about Labor is Labor should show their grand vision. 10-year plan. We're going to have a huge jobs program for dentists. We're going to fund dental courses.
A 5-year plan to get dental at a reasonable cost to everyone in Australia that doesn't destroy our bank.
Yeah, and I say as well, like, if you look at One Nation voters' teeth, they might love that policy. They can get on board with it.
Depends what Sky News says about it.
We could turn them into Greens voters overnight. But the other side too is, so basically what they'll say is, the Labor people is, there's a left and a right in Labor. There's a lot of moderates. So Albanese wins taking that kind of centrist lane of like he's a sort of a left faction, and his Joy Division t-shirt, he's got that
That's what
lefty
they
streak
say.
to him.
I've
Yeah,
never
that
seen
like
Lefty Albo ever.
well, I think what the argument I hear, I've never met Albo or anything like that, but that it is like they have to balance a whole set of competing interests. And my argument would be, can the competing interests be everyday people and not billionaires and big businesses?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's
Yeah.
really people are getting frustrated, and it's why they're turning to One Nation. Now, we've got the
Yep.
Victorian election in November, and
Yep.
it's looking likely that One Nation, they're not gonna get that many seats, I don't think. But even if they win a few seats, that's going to embolden them to sort of go, look, we have a chance at the federal election. And not that I think Pauline's going to be a better opposition leader than
No.
whoever the coalition one is going to be. But I think exactly why I love watching your channel and your messages. Albo needs to take this on board and listen to us and everyday people that are frustrated with Labor. As you said, like I call it almost like we're 95%ers. Like I probably do agree with Labor 95%. The social democratic approach, the Nordic model.
Would you say Albo is even like from my assessment, if I'm just looking at policy, I think Anthony Albanese right now is Malcolm Turnbull. Like I've never seen Malcolm Turnbull agree with Malcolm Turnbull is more progressive on like this. Malcolm Turnbull's calling the subs deal for what it is, a big waste of money for submarines we're never going to get to a country that do we want to be that closely aligned with right now? Like, and Albo is like more of a classical liberal than the classical liberal Malcolm Turnbull. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think there's a big thing to be said about being the current prime minister, being the former prime minister, because Turnbull did the same thing when he was prime minister of like trying to balance all the interests. And then suddenly when he was out, he was able to speak his mind. I would love someone to speak their mind when they're in office and let us know what they're really thinking. I think
and they never do because of party solidarity.
Yeah, well, the one is, Bill Shorten was talking about going after negative gearing and like the franking credits and stuff in 2019. And they attribute a lot of his loss to that, which I don't know exactly how.
That's what the Liberal Party told the Labor Party to think. And the Labor Party still believes it to this very day. There's good data to suggest that wasn't why they lost the election. But the Labor Party, I don't know, seem to internally believe that if they touch anything from 2019, that they'll lose.
Yeah, and if they're living, and this is again the whole thing, if they're living in that fear and they're never going to go there, they do kind of lose people like us who are sympathetic to that message. Because I think, as you've said, I know I've said this, I'll just speak for myself, is that I can see myself voting for Labor in future. Like, again, I would look at my local candidate and specifically what the focus is in my area. But I don't at the moment see that because, again, I don't see them fighting. I want that bold, like Zach Polanski in the UK, who's now the Greens leader and is actually fighting. And some of his political ads, he's talking about the billionaires and inequality. We're going to go after that. And we're not going to take that money from them. We're going to do the grassroots approach. That our donors are going to be everyday people. If Labor could sort of get back to those roots or have a path to that. But again, like, will they do that? I don't know. But it would be nice to see, I guess.
Well, I think the answer is no. We're seeing it right now. We have a Labor Party with no competition. Now, there's no competition in Victoria. There's not much competition in New South Wales. And there's now no competition for the Labor Party. So they can now do whatever they want. And this is why, like, I'm not a partisan. This is why I'm not like, oh, I vote for these people or I'm a this voter, is because I think in a way I'm a small L liberal in the sense that power will always corrupt. Power will always like centralize, and power, like too much concentration of power is a bad thing. And bureaucracy is the expensive price we pay to kind of limit that as much as we can. And when you have a political party with no competition, you would think, oh, Albo can do whatever he wants. Labor were telling me, and this is why I'm really cynical to the Labor Rusties to really piss them off in the comments there. Labor was telling me they couldn't do this stuff. They couldn't have a resource royalties thing that actually bloody did something, that actually gave us what we're bloody owed. They said, oh, because we lost an election years ago and the Liberal Party will just get in and reverse it like they did. No, you lost that election, Kevin Gillard Rudd, because you knifed each other in the back and we got sick of it. Your internal infighting, that's the reason you lost. And you're trying to blame this mining tax. Yep, you had a 90 million campaign against you. So be better, market better, fight for it, and then remove the knifing. And then maybe would you have lost? I don't know. We'll never truly know. But they told me that the reason why they can't do this good big reform that they say they've wanted to do this whole time is because they'll lose to Liberals. Well, now you've got 8 years left of this party that's in complete destruction, has no pathway for them. Their internal vote, Rupert Murdoch has destroyed that party as they all watch Sky News and think, keep going to the right. Yeah, Aussies are that far right. We're not, but keep trying. Like if Dutton didn't prove to you that going that direction wasn't the best way. But what's Albo doing? He's not going to lose the next election. Where's his big reform? Because look at Queensland. They up the royalty on coal, make heaps of money, 50-cent public transport, and the Liberal Party, have they gotten rid of either? No, because people like it. So do it, make it effing happen, sell it, and I don't know, I feel like we've tried their way. It's clearly not working, and I think their way is not working so much that if you don't solve the housing crisis, I was listening to it, I think it was an economist being like, the rise of the populist far right is almost directly in correlation to like housing affordability.
Oh,
so like
it is.
You solve housing affordability, you stop this Ponzi scheme of tax handouts that jack up the prices, and everyone suddenly goes, hey, you know what? You know, I'm cool. This seems like everything's working and we don't have to go to, because I am very sympathetic to the, like, here's a confession. When I was watching the US in 2016, I was like looking at Democrats and Republicans and Americans won't understand. I'm neither a Democrat or a Republican. Get your mind around that. And I was like, man, these Democrats have just had like this level of corruption that's just, we're sick of seeing. You slow slide in. You're a corporate machine that's just passing stuff for corporations. Listen, vote for Trump, burn it to the effing ground. And that was and so I'm very sympathetic to this idea of just break the machine. I'm tired of this back and forward, major structures not changing. If Pauline's going to break it and smash, if she's something different, I'm going to vote for that. And I can understand that. And in some way, I think it makes sense. Because why would you keep voting for the same thing over and over again as the housing crisis continues to get worse and not improve? Albo's had how long? 4, 5 years now? 6 years? Like, when's it going to even uptick a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. That's a good parallel, and it's happening in the UK as well, and many other countries too. But the countries that are comparable to us, Canada as well. They elected, Mark Carney, sort of their centrist that sort of gets in. And the thing I try and say, and it's happening with Trump in the UK, in the US now, is that the right wing alternative is always worse. Like the far right, they don't actually fix the cost of living. Like it's even
Trump fixing it.
But that's exactly right. Like the establishment, I think that is what it comes down to. Is it's not really left or right. It's establishment versus anti-establishment.
Totally.
And there are, like Australia, we do have that streak of, just leave us alone. We just want to have a good time. We're sort of a little bit apathetic around politics in particular. So you've really got to sort of fight to win people over. And as you're saying, like the messaging of, like with Labor saying, we've got the Housing Future Fund. Our goal is to build 1.2 million homes, falling short of that in most states. And then you got the images. Again, the imagery is always more powerful of 20, 50 people lined up at property inspections. I've seen this around the area. Like I work in the sort of the inner city and I hear stories from clients and that who have like had to move home. And it's not just like it used to be 10 or 15 years ago where maybe 1 or 2 applications and then you'll get a rental. Now it's like some people it's in 10 or 20 applications before they even get considered. And there's obviously it's, Labor's argument, I guess, or anyone that's in, it's not just like, here's this one thing, put this one policy in, it goes through the House and the Senate, then housing is fixed. It's a hugely complex set of procedures. But I agree with you, like we need to see, and I think it is definitely my role to understand what those procedures are. And that's why I'm educating myself on these policies. But everyday people who are stressed, they're busy, they're paying the bills, they're often working multiple jobs now, adding if they're like parents or students, other stress, they don't have the time to go through all that stuff. They just see that the situation is getting worse. And I am worried because I don't, again, think One Nation. I don't think Pauline will become prime minister, but I can definitely see that alternative that is going to make it worse because they're unashamed. Like at least Albanese, as we're saying, whether he's actually a lefty or not, at least tries to like stroke some middle path. Like Pauline Hanson's just unashamedly for the billionaires. Going to Bali or Thailand with Gina
She doesn't
Reinhardt.
sound like it.
Around.
She doesn't
Yeah.
say it. She doesn't.
Oh, that's
she
what I thought. It's a
says-
messaging. Exactly. Yeah.
And she codes, just like
Yes.
Trump, for some reason, codes working class, says what she
Yeah.
thinks, isn't bound by whatever. And I think the major parties have failed to learn the lesson of this quote unquote authenticity. When you're towing a party line and you can't honestly give me an assessment of, what's going on, I'm going to listen to Pauline, who's like, yeah, well, it's absolutely screwed. Whereas Albo's never going to say the housing market's screwed because he's in power and it looks bad on him. I want to get your take on like the solutions Labor Party are trying. And this is partly why, because I emailed you and I was like, hey, good stuff, keep it up. Because I liked how you're just going into policy and looking for this stuff.
Yeah.
And I want to, once again, I just want to look at policy and I want to look at results. And if Albo, like for certain things, I'm loving his investment back into Medicare, fantastic. Workers' rights, fantastic. This is great stuff. But there's some massive, massive issues that are driving inequality that if they continue to be unaddressed, it's going to continue a backward slide. And if there was data to show that Albo's housing policy and his financial wankery of their future fund, which is take lots of money, put it in a fund, and then with that money, then get a house. Well, is a house an asset or not? Isn't the house price growth at like 13% a year or something ridiculous in some states? Like, so if the government just took that 10 billion and then just bought a bunch of effing houses or built them, wouldn't you get better returns than your future fund if the house isn't? Anyway, so it's like, he's doing all this stuff. And if it was genuinely on an uptick economically, I feel like I'd really want to be getting behind him going, I know it doesn't feel that way. I know rental applications and blah, blah. I would be in his corner being like, look at this nerdy graph that some nerd mapped. Yep. We're on the ups. Give it a couple. Like we're slow. The ship's turning. But I want to get your take on like, can you tell me if you imagine Malcolm Turnbull being our prime minister right now?
Yeah.
How do you think Malcolm Turnbull would go about addressing the housing crisis, the NDIS, the superannuation, his privatized pension?
Yeah.
Like Albo just sold whatever army bases or whatever to private property developers. Like, can you tell me anything different that Malcolm Turnbull would do as he fixes the system with the private entities as the fat cat middleman?
Yeah, well, Malcolm Turnbull specifically, I think if he was a prime minister now, there'd probably be some kind of a teal party. And
yeah, let's say that the Liberal Party didn't lose its friggin' mind and they're all fighting to become the next One Nation. Like, there's a Malcolm Turnbull who goes, we've got a housing crisis. How are we going to fix it? Like, do you think it's unfair for me to think that everything Albo's doing, I think a teal Malcolm Turnbull would be doing? He'd say, let's solve the housing crisis by giving property developers more land, more tax breaks to property developers. Like, this is what I feel like Albo's doing. Am I wrong?
No, like that would be market based. Yeah, Malcolm Turnbull it would be tax cuts. It would be less zoning regulations that would butt up against environmental regulations, and then that would be where it gets delayed. So would they do anything different? I don't probably think that they would. I think that's the thing though. Like, housing is actually a great example of where politicians, and I think Labor Party do this, they're short term because they want to win the next election. But something like housing literally is like decades as a project, because just literally one house. It's like we built our house that we live in we did it through the COVID era when there was like those supply shortages. I think from, basically putting the deposit to moving in was nearly 4 years or 3.5 years or something like that. So, I mean, you look at, that's just one house. So you look at a whole system that they need to change around. What I would like to see is, again, it wouldn't even be necessarily like, let's say Turnbull's the opposition leader or whoever it is. I wouldn't want them to be Albo versus that person. I would like them as politics. See, because the word opposition, I think, is really damaging because it suggests that they have to say no to everything, like the no-alition. Should be like, And I see why they don't do it, because they don't really want Albo to get credit, because they need a problem to run on. That's what Trump did
Yeah.
with immigration. The Democrats had a bill that had all the Republican things. It had drone, it had wall, it had drone technology, it had investment for the border protection. It had literally everything the Republicans wanted. This was
Yeah.
2024. You can look this up. And Trump called all the Republicans, said, "Don't vote for it because I won't win the election." Literally said,
Yeah.
"Kill the thing that we want so we can run
Yeah.
against it." So you
Yeah.
got to keep in mind, like, maybe I won't speak
game.
for the opposition, but they have an incentive for there to be a problem that they can run against. Victoria's
Which is-
example with crime, because I'm an
Yeah.
expert in the crime field, because I work with youth
Ah.
criminals and stuff like that in my job.
Yeah.
And the messaging and misinformation about that is wild, because they want to basically pull funding from a lot of things where it's like, no, we know people who work in that system know what we need, the funding that we need. And if we don't get it, you take that away, crime is going to go up. Because crime's linked to the cost of living and poverty. So you take away the basics that people have, and it's just going to get worse. But like with housing, so I guess the answer is, the solution is really long term. Like, it's 10 years minimum. And because we bounce back and forward between parties, it's almost like the system itself isn't set up for the solution. And I don't know if that's
it's an uphill battle. Yeah, no, I
Well,
agree. It's an uphill battle, but I think what makes it going from an uphill battle to an impossible battle is the fact that Albo has literally continued this neoliberal privatization era of things that we are now 30 years into this stupid ass experiment. Privatize the roads, privatize the energy, then bail them out after they drive a roaring power station into the ground. And who's left on the hook? We are, because they're just going to switch it off. And guess what? We need power. Like, we're at the tail end of this. And I'm kind of seeing Albo just continue what he was handed by the Liberal government, which makes me think, how is this guy even a Labor guy? Like, if there was this opposition between, okay, we've tried privatizing, it was more expensive, less efficient, and we got worse outcomes. And instead of paying taxes to the government, we pay mandatory taxes to energy companies who don't even pay tax in this bloody country because we privatize it. Like, at least we'd have a conversation between, okay, they're clearly in trouble, buy back our assets, cop the hit, have the portfolio of assets there, and then let everyone pay less in energy bills because we're not padding the profits of CEOs. And if the Labor Party, and this is why I'm so critical of the Labor Party, if they, in a way, they're not even effective opposition, because if they're the ones that are supposed to be offering this, alternative to this privatization model, but on that issue, they are identical to the point where Peter Dutton's like, let's use the government to build nuclear reactors. And I'm like, I'm on board with half of that. Like, government ownership, yes. Shit asset that's going to provide expensive power, no.
Yeah, no argument for me on any, except I guess, maybe on Medicare, where they do focus on the public health. Labor do that. But you're talking about energy, and energy is fascinating. That's something I'm super interested in. Because in Victoria, not many people know this. They brought back the State Electricity Commission, the SEC. So they brought back public. So, and look, people don't even know. And this is, again, it goes back to Labor's marketing, especially in Victoria. This is like, it was Daniel Andrews started it, Jacinta Allen, who's now the Premier.
Actually, I did hear about this.
Yeah. They're trying. So this is, I guess, the thing is, I think it's two things, really. And I don't think it can be both, but I think one of them is the business interests are so powerful that they can say, Murdoch could say, I'm just running negative. Oh, he does it anyway. Right? This is my argument. I'm already giving the argument back.
I'm with you.
They threaten.
He's going to do it anyway.
Capital flight, which is all BS, because I think you've talked about this, is like they can't take the minerals out of Australia.
Yeah.
But even the tech ones, like I would instantly vote for the Prime Minister that said, we're standing up to Google, Netflix, and all that. We're taxing them properly. They can't pass the costs on to the consumer.
One
they
nation
can't raise their
voters would as well.
And if they want to leave, they can leave. And that's what true capitalism is. Someone will fill that spot. Microsoft, if they pay their tax, Bing can be our search engine. We're going to have Bing. We're going to have Ask Jeeves. Google can just F off. And that's what I like, that bold, a politician that says, no, we're standing up to the corporations. And you see Zach Polanski, Bernie Sanders did it. Zach Polanski is doing it in the UK. And then their polls rise because people are like, yes,
and in a way, Pauline does it. Like rhetorically.
Yeah, rhetorically. Yeah, she presents
voting wise, no, she's lockstep with private corporation interests who literally are bankrolling her But
Yeah.
she rhetorically, and that's what Aussie
Yep.
punters are looking at. Rhetorically, she's like, oh, these.
Exactly.
And to be fair, she is at least, I think, on board with the royalties thing. She hasn't voted for it in the past, so maybe
Yeah.
she's changed. I don't know.
I wouldn't give her. You're nicer than me.
I
I wouldn't give her credit for that. But you're right. But it's, as I said, like, as someone that actually stands up and fights, that's what I want. That's who I'm looking for. The other side of it too is, so there's the business interest and all the corporate interest that will come down hard on anyone who tries that. I think there's ways through that though.
Yeah.
The other thing, which I think is more sinister, and this is psychology, and I don't know if we'll ever know, do they actually want to make the change? Like Albanese, 60 years old. He's old school. You know, is he actually an old sort of neoliberal who believes in that 90s kind of, what do they call it? Like, not triangulation, but like, you know, the new way, new deal, where it was like they realized that in the 90s, that's when corporate interests started really investing in politics and donating to parties, like through the Bill Clinton era, because that's how Bill Clinton got back in. They basically said, Republicans are killing us with funding. They're getting like millions in donations and we're getting basically nothing. We need to take some of this money too. Bernie Sanders talks about it in his books. Like, the shift happened in the 90s politically in the US. And we've kind of copied that to a lesser degree. Like, we do have some public funding. You know, a lot of people don't know. Like, people say, well, why don't you just vote Labor? Why do you vote Greens or another independent? It's like, if they get over 4% of the vote, they get $3.30 per vote funding. So our vote is actually money. I think a lot of people don't even understand that. Once the candidate gets over 4%, we're actually funding them. If it's independent, that's funding their campaign or funding the party.
And in 2 or 3 elections, they might stand a shot.
Yeah. So it's the question, and it's exactly like the motives of Albanese. Like, I come on the show, Albo, he won't, but I would love to hear their motivation. Do they actually want change? Because I agree with you. Like, Konrad,
they'll say yes.
They will say yes. But then, as you're saying, like with Pauline, you got to look at, you know, this is the psychology 101. Look at people's actions rather than their words. What are they actually voting? And I have very little tolerance for people that say all that good stuff, get in them, and don't actually deliver.
Yeah.
And we go back. The thing is, the only thing I'm really concerned about in Australia is going back to the coalition, whatever that's going to be, will be objectively worse. Because you're saying like the privatization, they advertise that. That comes on the label.
And this is why it's a power game that we're sick of. When I look at the Labor Party, the Liberal Party, and you see the no election, they have no policy, no good policies. Tomorrow, I would spruik the Liberal Party if all of a sudden they were like, we're for the free market. And guess what? Propping up failed corporations is not a free market. Like you've said, this has been, I love that argument. That's because I've thought the similar thing where it's like, if Netflix doesn't want to pay tax, then piss off. We'll block you. People use VPNs if they really want it. It's fine. But it's going to be a pain in your ass. And we're going to cost you a lot of money in profit. And guess what? We're going to take that money and we're going to fund some Aussie startups that will pay tax. And we're going to have another Netflix that can do rights and all that sort of, like, do you believe in the free market or not? Because if you don't believe in the free market, that's the Liberal Party. Whereas, so I'd vote for them tomorrow if they were like, listen, free market principles, it's our resources, give us a dividend. Free market principles, we're going to have more competition in and have the ACCC have powers to break it up. Like, if the Liberal Party suddenly was for a free market, which I think the reason why they're losing is because it's so funny listening to Liberal Party politicians. We've been hammering Labor for a while. Listening to Liberal Party politicians kind of like be so confused as to, well, I mean, we stand for liberal values. And no, they never say what they are. I'm like, but what do you mean liberal values? Like freedom. Power should be checked. Like, it's all about checks and balances on power, decentralization, less government intervention, and free. Like, hang on, you're the one that's for propping up every single corporation, every single private entity that's ever failed. You come in with your checkbook. Here's your money, Mr. Harvey Norman. Here's your money, Mr. Qantas. And, oh, you posted $1 billion profit. We won't claw that back. My wife got a bloody audit for taking COVID money.
Yeah, right.
Meanwhile, Qantas posts a profit after taking COVID money. Where's their
your
audit?
Your wife probably didn't see them at Christmas party, at Christmas dinner. So
she should have gone.
That's why. But see, what you're saying, this is exactly, I know I saw you on the Serious Danger, the Greens podcast, and they were a bit taken aback that you're a capitalist.
Yeah, I pissed them off a little bit too with
a lot of people understand it, but some people are surprised when it's like, you're a rightist leftist, like, oh, lefty, but I'm a capitalist. It's like, the true social democracy lets free markets run. This is the Nordic model. the government sits up here, and sort of is hands off until one business starts getting too concentrated, or one business or person starts getting too much power. And that's when they step in, they go, hang on a minute, we're regulating this. And that's what I don't think happens in Australia, because that one person is so powerful that people are just scared of them. Or again, they're either scared of them or they kind of agree and they just aren't really
want power and they don't want an ad machine against them. Yeah. That's honestly what I think it is. It's simple power dynamic self-preservation. And the way I look at it too, especially like if I'm talking to the liberal voter or whatever, I'm like, do you believe in the free market or not? Because exactly as you've said, a free market cannot exist without a proper referee. Because essentially what happens when you're seeing it happen, Amazon is destroying small businesses. Small businesses in Australia are completely being decimated, because if you want to start a supermarket, you can't. Not even Lidl from Germany looked at Australia and went, you know what, too hard to get in. They've monopolized the market. So you either believe in the free market or you don't. And if you want a free market, you need a strong referee that's hands off until power concentrates. Then they break it up again, reset it for another 10, 15 years as the players kind of fight it out. And then it will always centralize into a monopoly. That's what we're witnessing with everything. And if you don't have a good referee that says, now you've got too much market power, we need to allow other players to come in, I feel like that's a fundamental not spoken about thing about what a free market is. It's a soccer game with a good ref. If you have no ref in that soccer game, you're not playing soccer, you're in a blood sport.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and look, I wouldn't say we have no ref, but we have a ref that's not looking at the ball.
He's old, he's wheezing, he's got asthma, he's like, you can't keep up with the balls down the other end. He's like, oh, I didn't really see that. Play on. Yeah. That's what we've got.
Or he's getting paid to do that, you know.
The other thing I like about the sport analogy is like rules in sport are changing all of the time, because the thing that matters to sport, or you won't make money, is competition. So they're putting in salary caps. They're making sure one team doesn't just have the most money and buys all the best players, because no one's going to watch the sport. So the thing that's more important than the rich owners of a team is that the game must be watchable. And if there's no competition, it's pointless. So they will do it. I was watching a whole nerdy thing about tennis courts, because I was watching the Australia Open, and they've changed the surface of the tennis court over the years to slow it down to make rallies longer. And some tennis players liked it. They didn't like it. But the thing they want the most is people to watch the game. And I think that's how I look at the quote unquote free market. And lefties will hate me because I'm like, the free market, because I want small businesses to come in. I want small businesses to stand a chance against the Coles and Woolies and the energy companies and the banks that kind of control our entire economy here.
Yeah, totally. That's the despair part. I mean, that's the hope part, to fight the despair. Last thing I wanted to cover off to quickly chat about before we wrap up was the gala dinner that you did last year. Because that, I think, is the fighting fire with fire. You know, one level it's awareness raising, but also it's actually trying to make change by hiring a lobbyist. What is the plan moving forward for, you know, Punter's podcast and this bigger movement that you're talking about of everyday sensible people that can understand that something is wrong, the economy is rigged, the people in power are not necessarily equipped to deal with it, as we've just explained. What do we do? Like, what's your idea of how do we move forward with some hope?
Where I think I sit in this equation is and this is I guess what I said earlier about how I see where I fit. I don't know everything. Like, clearly, I don't think I should even be in this political commentary game. Like, people shouldn't really listen to me. I don't have a degree. I'm not an economist. I don't know what's going on. But I can at least speak like a normal person and understand the basic principles and engage on politics on the level that I think we should only have to get to at that level. So I'm trying to fill the information gap that gets filled with media propaganda to push people to vote how they want. So I think the only way forward is to understand firsthand, and this is why I had the gala dinner that had politicians and people paid money and they could lobby the politician. And it was like, hey, how crazy is this that you can pay to get access to your politician? Like, I have to bring it to the surface with some kind of obvious gimmick where people can understand tangibly, because it is complex and it is boring. The problem with Australia's corruption is that it's so boring and it's under so many layers of paperwork, and it's It's just the way it is, and it's not corruption. I'll get sued for calling a politician corrupt here in Australia because our free speech laws are not very good. And so I see my role as like just being the thorn in the side, that the thing I really want to bring to service, so that everyone, when they go to vote, I just want everyone to vote on policy, not party. I want everyone to vote on data and not. And I'm working on something at the moment that will hopefully take the information that is public, that is out there, that probably only people like yourself are looking at, and
Yeah, I'll
put it
do
in
my
a
best
way.
too.
Yeah, like do a 1 hour. I watched your Labor one where it's all their policies. I'm like, great. If only there was a quicker way of understanding who funds them, where the lobbyist connections are, which industries did they go to work for after. Because I actually think, in a bit of hope, our system is very easy to fix. Very easy. We already have publicly funded elections. We already have preferential voting. We already have mandatory voting. All we need to do is remove the money. That's not everything. I understand that. But remove the money. Oh, how are we going to pay for it? We're already paying for it. The end. Dumb election argument. We're already paying for it. That's fine. Government pays for it. I'm happy to pay for that. Number two, stop politicians going to become lobbyists. Clearly, and even staffers. If you're going to work in Parliament House, you need to sign a thing and say for 5 years minimum. I would say never. Starting my negotiations, you will never become a lobbyist ever. If you are found to have used any connection or any influence for another private entity, whatever, boom, you're done. Like, I think you fix those two things and everything else sorts itself. So I really don't think we're that far, but we have to focus on the right things. And that's really hard when billionaires pay their media machines to make sure that the system remains broken, because the people that make money from this broken system are the people that own our media. They're making so much money from this housing thing. Rupert Murdoch and in realestate.com.au, they get paid on like percentages of the price of the listing. Like, he wants the price to be high because he is making an absolute killing. So I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yeah, no, it gives me a lot of hope, and it's good to know that, yeah, there's definitely, because I love the channel, and I think we have a really important role, all the political YouTubers. Again, it's not about your political ideology. It's just if you get this stuff or not. I think we can do that everyday politics of explaining that to more people. So if they stumble upon our channel, they might get that message. So I'm all on board for that. If you ever want to run, you'll have my vote. I don't know if we're living in the same area, but
I never will. But yeah.
But yeah, just on a personal,
the guy reading the papers and the policy.
Maybe I'll have to. I don't know.
Reading the summary.
Yeah, we'll see how we go, right? But yeah, I do want to thank you as well, Konrad, for reaching out to me, because as I was saying, you were on my list of people to contact, but I didn't feel big enough to sort of, because I was just starting. I was like, oh, I'll reach out maybe when I've got like a couple, like 10,000 subscribers or something. I don't even have 1,000 yet, so that was a good boost of confidence for you emailing me. So it's good to know the algorithm is linking us too.
Yeah, the algorithm put us together. I saw your stuff. I saw your long, deep dive into Labor policy, and I was like, fantastic. I don't have to do it. This guy needs to keep doing what he's doing. And I just like your long form sort of discussions and your good faith engagement with, like, why can't it just be policy? And I mean, the benefit of being small, because I know what it's like to just be grinding away and like just trying to grind the growth of a channel. The benefit is your comments are much better and much more interesting to engage with. I noticed you're like, oh, my commenter said this, my commenter said that. Once your video hits like a weird niche of the algorithm, turns to shit and toxic quick. Like, and then you kind of can't read it if you want to, like, oh, you're a psychologist. How much is reading hate comments going to really help my psychology? So it's a bit of
I put a rule now: when I post, I don't read the comments for a week. Like, I let it just simmer and marinate. Because like I've done that. I've seen a negative comment; it's ruined the rest of my day. Like, even
and
though
everyone else is like, "Hey, good job, real good job." It's like, you suck so hard. You're like,
yeah. It hits
I
love the ones like, we don't know anything. It's like, I know something. That's very, but I'll take it.
You don't know anything. It is. Yeah, it's a tough thing, and I always. It's a battle. I want to know what people are saying and thinking. And I know there's really thoughtful, engaging, interesting people out there that I want to learn from, because I don't like, tell me where I'm wrong. This is why I'm showing all my citations. Hey, here's the research from this think tank. Here's the research from this economist. Here's what this person says. If they're wrong or I've misinterpreted it, the good thing about YouTube and stuff is people can say, yo, you got that completely wrong. You misunderstood that. And I want to have the community sort of nudge me when I will misunderstand things. Like, I think the difference between me and somebody else is, like, I know I'm an idiot. I know I don't know everything. And so I have to rely on people smarter than me, multiple people, and go, well, he thinks this, he thinks this. How do I kind of work that out? I think our biggest danger as just regular punters is thinking we're not idiots. We're all idiots. Of course we are. We spend our life doing one thing. I was a good teacher. That's it. I don't know anything about science and immune systems. So when I read an abstract on that sort of stuff, I'm not going to be able to know it because I'm an idiot over here, but I know something over here. So when someone's short in education, I understand that, but I don't understand the stuff. And I think understanding that everyone is an idiot in areas they haven't studied makes sense. And that's okay. We just have to like learn from each other in that way.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I think that education, educate ourselves to then educate others. And again, like the one thing, we can't control how people vote or who's going to be in at the next election. For me, it's just if we can get as many good politicians in, like we know who they are and that they stand for the right thing, they can then push parties from the inside to go to the way that we would like things to be. And I think it is a bit of an intergenerational thing. I don't mean that in terms of even age. It's just the ideas, that old school Bill Clinton neoliberalism that has led to what we are in now. So many people are frustrated. Like, you're seeing, I guess, your channel being so successful is part of the evidence that a lot of Aussies are fed up with it. And I do think a lot of those Pauline people at the moment can be won over if we approach and market to them in the right way. I want to say market, just communicate these ideas. It's like, your frustration is valid. You're being sold a bit of snake oil. Let's talk about what the real solutions are. And I think we'll get there eventually.
Yeah, I'm with you entirely. So keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on the show, Konrad. I'll ask everyone to like, comment, subscribe. I was going to say like go onto your channel, but I'm sure if like people have seen my channel, I'd love to know like our Venn diagram of overlap. But if if this is anyone's first time seeing Konrad, go into Punters Politics and subscribe and all that. And let's hope we can get a lot more of these videos out in collaborations. Because I feel like the winds are changing. Like seeing your channel grow, I think the energy is changing, and something's going to happen soon for sure.
Yeah, and there is, as long as these issues don't get fixed, people will be looking for solutions and answers. And if Pauline is the only one saying the right things around it, then I'm not surprised at all. And if so, but in that being said, like you said, like the growth of my channel, the growth of your channel, like these things are showing that people are looking for alternative solutions, and we are engaged and we do care and we do want to fix it. And all I just want is, even if you disagree with me or even if I disagree with someone else, do we agree on something we want to fix? Because we can fix that and then fight later.
Yeah. And I'm at the point where I've got a few like of those commenters and people that are regular people coming on my show soon. So I'm lining up those kind of every day, like, the Vox Pops, but one at a time. My goal for you, this will be the last thing. My goal for you, Konrad, I think it'd be great if you had 1 million subscribers by the next election, because I would love to see you being the voice.
I don't think the Australian audience is that big. Like, I feel like I've hit my YouTube cap.
We'll see how it goes. I'm just getting into this on the other end, so we'll see how it goes. But I would love to see yourself in this network of people that are pushing this message, get out there, and if we get more popular, we get more money, but we also get that message out there more. So let's hope we can get that one day. That's it. Yeah, we'll see how we go. Well, thanks for coming on the show, Konrad.
Thanks, man.
And hopefully we will talk again soon.
Chat soon. Thanks, mate.